Hello there, good evening, and welcome to Mega News at 6 live on MBN TV. We're also streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube at MBN 360. Moving on to the major headlines.
Mahama to table slavery motion at UN Assembly on March 25. In business, Ghana faces tomato shortage as Burkina Faso suspends exports. On the international front, Chad warns Sudan it will retaliate after drone strike on Monest kills 17.
We have the details of these stories and more. My name is Naja Modot, and now the news in detail. The Vice President, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, has announced that the government is implementing a comprehensive reform program to reposition state-owned enterprises, SOEs, to operate efficiently, deliver value, and remain financially sustainable.
Speaking at the 2026 SIGA Stakeholders Conference in Accra on Thursday, March 19, 2026, she highlighted the persistent operational losses and rising liabilities of some SOEs, which continue to strain public finances and require government intervention.
The combined liabilities and operational losses of some state-owned enterprises put considerable pressure on our public finances, leading to contingent liabilities that required government intervention. Weak accountability and financial indiscipline must not define our future. This conference, therefore, raises a central question. How do we transform public enterprises from fiscal risk into engines of shared prosperity? Answering that question requires both policy direction and sustained discipline. This has been a key focus of the government. Since assuming office, our administration has been committed to repositioning specified entities as engines of value creation.
Opoku-Agyeman stressed that the government's reform agenda seeks to shift SOEs away from inefficiency toward performance, accountability, and transparency.
Legacy issues and past operational challenges should not justify persistent underperformance. SOEs must deliver and offer an attractive value proposition to Ghanaians who are the shareholders. This is reflected in the broader reform agenda currently underway. Under our economic research agenda, SOEs are expected to fulfill their mandates for which they were established and to exemplify the performance-oriented culture.
Under the economic research agenda, SOEs are expected to fulfill the mandates for which they were established and exemplify a performance-oriented culture. The reforms, she noted, are anchored in measures unveiled by the Ministry of Finance and the state's governance authorities to ensure SOEs meet their objectives while serving as benchmarks of efficiency. A key part of the reforms has involved a comprehensive review of the state's equity portfolio. In 2025, working with the Ministry of Finance, we began a thorough review of the state's equity holdings. The review aims to provide insights into the financial health and strategic significance of various SOEs and development finance companies within the portfolio, she said.
In 2025, working with the Ministry of Finance, SIGA began a thorough review of the state's equity portfolio. The review aims to offer insights into the financial health and strategic significance of various SOEs and JVCs within the state's equity portfolio. Among its expected key recommendations are measures to improve the performance and sustainability of underperforming entities, For entities that are sustainably profitable, government may consider increasing its stake or listing them on the stock exchange.
The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakpo-Fibua, has announced that more than 30 million seedlings have been planted under the government's 2025 Tree for Life initiative.
Speaking at the International Day of Forests on Thursday, March 19 at the Achimota Forest, the minister described the initiative as a major step towards restoring degraded lands and strengthening the country's economy. The minister described the Tree for Life initiative as Ghana's local response to this global shift, aimed at creating jobs and supporting rural communities. He commended the contribution of young people, farmers, and private sector players. Looking ahead, the minister said the government is maintaining its ambition for this year. However, he cautioned that planting trees is only the first step. We must do more than plant, we must nurture, because a seedling is a promise and a mature tree is a legacy, he said. He said the program goes beyond environmental protection and is tied directly to national development.
The Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, has announced the successful evacuation of Ghanaians in Israel who requested assistance to return home.
In a statement posted on Facebook on Thursday, March 19, 2026, Mr. Ablakwa disclosed that the operation ensured the safe return of Ghanaians, as well as some diplomatic staff from Ghana's embassy in Tel Aviv. He explained that while the majority of embassy personnel were evacuated, a few critical staff members have been retained to provide essential consular services. The minister expressed gratitude to both Israeli and Egyptian authorities for their cooperation in facilitating the evacuation process. Mr. Ablakwa also welcomed the evacuees who arrived in Ghana hours after the operation was completed. He reaffirmed the government's commitment to the safety of its citizens abroad, noting that evacuation efforts will continue when necessary.
The Ministry of Food and Agriculture has urged farmers to intensify dry season farming to boost local production of tomatoes and stabilize food supply, following Burkina Faso's ban on tomato exports.
The directive by the Burkinabe government, announced in a joint statement issued in Ouagadougou, imposed an immediate nationwide halt on tomato exports until further notice to prioritize domestic supply for local processing industry. The measure also suspends the issuance of special export authorizations, effectively shutting down former export channels. Traders with existing permits have been given a 2-week window to complete ongoing transactions before all authorizations are revoked. Authorities in Burkina Faso have warned that violations will attract sanctions under existing laws, adding that seized consignments will be redirected to local processing factories. Reacting to the development, Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture, John Dumelo, said Ghana must take steps to reduce its reliance on imported tomatoes by strengthening local production. Speaking in an interview on Joy News on Thursday, March 19, 2026, he expressed optimism that sustained efforts could significantly reduce reliance on imports within a few years. He acknowledged that Ghana may not immediately stop sourcing tomatoes from Burkina Faso, but expressed optimism that sustained investment in local farming could change the situation in the medium term. Additionally, the Deputy Agriculture Minister noted that the farmers must scale up dry season production of tomatoes, promising that the ministry is committed to assisting farmers with whatever it takes to produce tomatoes, especially during this ban.
Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, has disclosed that the Congressional Black Caucus of the U.S. has thrown its full support behind Ghana's planned United Nations resolution seeking to declare the transatlantic slave trade a crime against humanity.
This comes after President John Dramani Mahama indicated that he would table a historic resolution at the United Nations General Assembly seeking to declare the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity on March 25, 2026. Mr. Ablakwa, who is in Washington, D.C. for high-level talks, described the backing as a major boost to Ghana's diplomatic push ahead of the anticipated vote. Ablakwa said the endorsement adds momentum to Ghana's broader global campaign. He added that discussions with the caucus also focused on deepening long-term cooperation between Ghana, the African Union, and the U.S. lawmakers. Ablakwa expressed appreciation to caucus chair Yvette D. Clark and other members, including a U.S. lawmaker of Ghanaian heritage, for their support. He said all parties are aligned ahead of March 25, 2026, when Ghana hopes to make history at the United Nations with the adoption of the resolution.
Ghana is set to table a historic resolution at the United Nations General Assembly seeking to declare the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has announced.
The initiative, led by President John Dramani Mahama, is scheduled for consideration and possible adoption on Wednesday, March 25, 2026, coinciding with the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. According to the ministry, Ghana is advancing the resolution in its role as African Union champion on reparations, in collaboration with the African Union and the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, alongside people of African descent globally. If adopted, it would mark the first comprehensive United Nations resolution on slavery and the transatlantic slave trade in the organization's 80-year history, according to the ministry. The statement said the move would preserve historical truth as a foundation for justice and reconciliation and response to growing calls for reparatory justice, accountability, and healing. Ahead of the tabling, a wreath-laying ceremony will be held at the African Burial Ground in New York on March 24, followed by a high-level event on reparatory justice at the United Nations. The ministry expressed appreciation to a wide range of institutions and experts, including the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, and various African Union bodies for their contributions to drafting the resolution. Ghana has urged all UN member states to support the initiative, describing it as a defining moment in advancing global justice and addressing the long-term consequences of slavery.
We'll go for a break and be back with business. Do stay with us.
How would you some look fast? Papa, me again. Yes, we are late. Me quite remember who hear me. Meant me and sent my friend doctor when I'm crossing over. See what we swear. She has malaria. Malaria? Oh, what they say with the router? Me copy the absence. A drone a friend router mixer. Yeah, come on, let it draw. And running so Gap trap and the draw crew abaso body assay. Wabo Ruta mixture abaso. Ruta natural products and one Ruta mixture. Yeah, you could see a treat. Ruta tonic and the Ruta life for a who a Phoenix like the bunny, a Philippian. That's support the immune system. Ruta de Obiasia, FDA, and the Dragon Crab to Yatu.
Welcome back. In business, authorities in Burkina Faso have suspended the export of fresh tomatoes, a development expected to deepen supply challenges in Ghana.
In a joint statement issued in Ouagadougou, the Burkinabe government announced an immediate nationwide halt to tomato exports until further notice, explaining that the move is intended to prioritize domestic supply for local processing industries. Signed by the country's trade and agriculture ministries also suspends the issuance of special export authorizations, effectively shutting down formal export channels for tomatoes. Traders with existing permits have been granted a 2-week window to complete ongoing transactions, after which all authorizations will be revoked. The government warned that any breach of the directive would attract sanctions under existing laws, adding that seized consignments would be redirected to local processing factories to support domestic agro-industrial production. Security agencies and border officials have been tasked to enforce the directive, while the public has been encouraged to report violations. The decision is expected to have immediate implications for Ghana's food supply, particularly in major trading hubs such as Techiman, where traders rely heavily on imports from Burkina Faso to supplement local production. Cross-border tomato trade has long played a critical role in stabilizing prices in Guinean markets, especially during periods of low domestic output. However, the trade has faced increasing disruption due to insecurity in the Sahel region.
The Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, has expressed disappointment over the persistently high lending rates charged by commercial banks despite a decline in the policy rate.
According to GUTA, lending rates ranging between 22% and 24% remain excessive and fail to align with the central bank's current monetary policy direction. Speaking during an engagement with the Minority Caucus on Thursday, March 19, GUTA President Clement Boateng called on the Bank of Ghana to take stronger measures to compel commercial banks to reduce their interest rates. Mr. Boateng also highlighted concerns with the current VAT system, noting that lending rates are not responding effectively to monetary policy adjustments.
We'll go for a break and be back with international news.
Hi, welcome to Shiloh Guest House, where comfort meets warmth. Our serene environment and cozy rooms provides a pleasant stay. To book a room with us, call 055-5940-103 and 0241-972076. Locate us at Teshinungwa Estate, number 8 Coconut Street, directly behind A-Life Supermarket. Shiloh Guest House, where comfort meets warmth.
In our world of entertainment, British-Chinese filmmaker Chi Kyun-shon, has called on international filmmakers to collaborate more closely with African creatives, citing the continent's growing pool of talent and its potential to produce globally compelling stories.
British-Chinese filmmaker Chi Kyun-shon has called on international filmmakers to collaborate more closely with African creatives, citing the continent's growing pool of talent and its potential to produce globally compelling stories. Drawing from his experience directing Son of the Soil, his first major African production shot in Nigeria, Mr. Shon described the level of dedication and unity he encountered on set as exceptional. He stressed that cross-border collaboration is not only beneficial for storytelling, but also critical to expanding the reach of African cinema and unlocking new opportunities for the industry. According to him, working with African actors and production teams allowed for a meaningful exchange of ideas and techniques, ultimately strengthening the quality and global appeal of the project. Mr. Shong also highlighted the importance of telling authentically African stories that resonate with global audiences without losing their cultural identity. Looking ahead, Mr. Shong expressed a desire to return to the continent for future projects, describing Africa as a hub of untapped opportunity. His remarks reinforce a growing sentiment within the global film community. Africa's creative industry is not only rising, but ready to take its place on the world stage through stronger international collaboration.
We'll go for a quick break and be back with sports. Stay tuned. In the world of sports, former CAF Disciplinary Board Chairman Raymond Hack believes Senegal will emerge victorious at the Court of Arbitration for Sport after being stripped of the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations title.
The ruling of CAF's Appeals Board came after Morocco appealed, citing a breach of tournament rules following Senegal's 17-minute walk-off during the final, despite the extra-time winner from Pape Gueye sealing victory. The Senegalese Football Federation called the decision unfair, unprecedented, and unacceptable. They also announced plans to challenge the decision at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Meanwhile, CAF President Patrice Motsepe said they will respect and abide by the outcome of the legal process.
At the end of the 15 minutes, the referee blew the final whistle to declare Senegal the winners. And that's it. The referee's decision is always final. It's in terms of the CAF disciplinary code. It's in terms of the IFAB rules in Rule 5, which clearly states that the referee's decision is final. And the fact that this is not the first time. You know, if Morocco, remember, going back to 1976, I think it was the first African Cup of Nations where they played Guinea, Morocco walked off the field of play. They then came back and the game then continued. We had an instance where it appeared before the Court of Arbitration in 2019 where Wired were involved, and CAS turned around and said the referee's decision is final. When he blows that whistle, that's the end of the game. Had Morocco not taken the penalty or gone to the referee before and said to him, listen, we'll take the penalty, but we're playing under protest, and when it came to the extra time, we're playing under protest, then they may have an argument. But at this stage, to go and rule that Morocco are the winners, I think is totally wrong. Also, in terms of, they say in terms of Article 84, they awarded the game 3-0 to Morocco. Well, again, they misinterpret it. If you read the rule, it says that the team must be found guilty of contravening Article 82 and 83. It doesn't say Article 82 or 83. It uses the word and. And means both rules. Rule 82 is the one where they walked off the field. Rule 83 is the one where it says they must arrive in time. And they were never, ever charged with not arriving in time. So how can you award the team 3-0 in favour of Morocco when they didn't do anything as far as that's concerned?
We'll go for a break and be back with international news. On the international front, Chad's president has ordered the military to retaliate against future attacks from Sudan following a drone attack that killed at least 17 people and injured several other people attending a funeral.
Wearing military uniform, President Idris Mahamat Deby convened an emergency security meeting on Wednesday evening where he ordered the military to be on high alert. He also ordered a total closure of the border with Sudan. He described the attack targeting the border town of Tain as outrageous and a blatant aggression against Chad's territorial integrity. He said that it had happened despite warnings to the two sides battling each other in Sudan and a previous closure of the border. Last month, Chad closed its border with Sudan until further notice to stop repeated incursions by Sudanese armed groups. It, however, allowed exceptional exemptions on humanitarian grounds with prior authorization from relevant authorities. Residents of Tain said the victims of Wednesday's attack were mourners, with one quoted by the Reuters news agency as saying they had gathered at a house for a funeral ceremony that involved reading the Quran.
U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to blow up a major gas field in Iran if it attacks the U.S. Gulf Arab ally Qatar again.
Trump's threat came after a day in which Israel hit Iran's South Pass, part of the world's largest natural gas field. Tehran retaliated by striking an energy complex in Qatar, causing extensive damage and leading to a spike in energy prices. While Israel has not officially confirmed its attack on the gas field, the U.S. president said the U.S. knew nothing about its ally, which had violently lashed out at Iran out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East. Conflict across the region continues after the U.S. and Israel launched wide-ranging strike on Iran on 28 February. Tehran has responded by launching attacks on Israel and U.S. allied states in the Gulf. Israel is also fighting Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon, where more than 1 million people have been displaced. Oil prices leapt to nearly $110 a barrel after Israel's attack on the South Pass site, which is located offshore between Iran and Qatar.
This brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, let's do a recap of the major headlines.
Mahama to table slavery motion at UN Assembly on March 25. In business, Ghana faces tomato shortage as Burkina Faso suspends exports. On the international front, Chad warns Sudan it will retaliate after drone strike on mourners kills 17.
My name is Naja Modote. Thanks for staying with us.